So you're at RPTS. Did you do the full 3 years?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
And you mentioned the last time you did some commuting, and you also stayed down there as well. I'm sure that was a really enjoyable experience, those 3 years, because you're a mature man by that stage, in relative terms. You know, you weren't getting at 23, 24. That's always, I think, a benefit.
Yeah, and I think one of the assets of doing any block of academic or educational pursuits in your mature years is that you're less likely to take it for granted and more likely to approach it as a privilege, to make the most out of it. So it's not just like a younger child at school because I have to be here and you do just the bare minimum to get by. For me, it was something it was a longing that I had for years, finally able to be fulfilled. It's my full-time calling to immerse myself in a study of the things of God. And, one of the helpful little books I read before when I was a student at OTH was B.B. Warfield's The Religious Life of Theological Students, which I would, recommend to anyone going into studies. And I probably read it at a good time in my life, so I was able to come in. And it applies even to the pastoral, not just your studies in the seminary, but it's a real privilege to handle these things on a daily basis for good chunks at a time.
It is, and the word privilege is not misused there. It's not underused. It is a real privilege.
Yeah.
Did you do internships during those times?
Yeah. So part of the program, part of that degree requires an internship. I did my internship with Reverend Matt Kingswood in Russell.
Oh. And
it was a tremendously beneficial experience for me and for my family. So I was able to do my internship while living in Ottawa. And so we didn't have to relocate for that. And I learned a ton from Matt. I continue to learn a ton from Matt. So.
And you were still a member of the Ottawa RP Church?
I was a member of the Ottawa Church. I was also a ruling elder.
Yes.
I was on the session of the Ottawa Church.
When were you ordained to the office of ruling elder then?
Yeah,
was that during the seminary days, or was that before your seminary?
It was in between. I believe it was right in between finishing Ottawa Theological Hall and starting in Pittsburgh at RPTS.
So you had a responsibility here as well as your service in Russell.
That's right.
Yeah. And then after that, you completed your MDiv, you complete your internship. The next stage in your life was the call then to. Was there a period of time in between that?
Little bit. There was a year or so where we welcomed our first child.
Yeah.
Just after my internship and my final. If you remember seeing Miriam at our graduation,
right.
she was
with child.
She was with child, and Caleb was born in August.
Yeah.
And I knew, going into that season and having graduated from seminary, knowing that there were open pulpits and that there was a chance of potentially relocating, we were open to all of that.
Yes.
But there was something that changed my thinking a little bit, at least the intensity of my thinking and the speed of how things were moving forward when Caleb came along. Just being a father for the first time, and
it does impact our lives.
It does, and realizing that the Lord may call us to up and go down to Egypt, but He might not, and He might actually just give us a little bit of a season of just getting our bearings as parents here before the next thing comes along.
Yes.
And that's what he did, and it was really good that happened, because we were able to stay in the house that we owned in the West End, southwest of Ottawa. I was able to go back and actually cover for Matt, who took a sabbatical after the internship the following summer. I was asked to come back and cover for him in the pulpit while he was away on sabbatical. So we were able to just focus, focus on things as a family.
Yeah.
And it was during that time that I had done some candidating. Even while Miriam was pregnant, we had done some candidating in the U.S., and we were very open to going wherever the Lord would call us. And when Caleb was born, and as I said, my thinking started to become a little, well, refined is not the right word, but my thinking was a little bit different in terms of a desire to be somewhere.
Yes.
And within about 6 months of having Caleb, I was convinced that I wanted to stay in Canada. And
we're thankful for that.
And I was hoping that the Lord would open a door in Canada,
yes.
because I knew that I was so committed to going where He called, that if that call, if that was the U.S., that I would have to go.
Yeah.
So,
a servant under call.
Yeah. So I spoke to the church that I had candidated at, and it was developing, and it looked like there was a significant prospect of it moving forward. And I spoke to the session there and explained where I was at in my life and in my thinking and my heart, and moved forward within the Canadian context from there. And then Hudson St. Lazare came along.
Yeah. And you were ordained in October 2018?
That's right.
That's right. Tell us a wee bit about the Hudson congregation. Tell us.
Is it 19?
Did I say 2018?
Yeah, I think, but it could be 18. But
I was ordained. I was
okay. So
installed in
19. Yeah.
2018.
Okay.
You were 19. Sorry, my mistake. So tell us a wee bit about what it's like ministering in Quebec.
Yeah. Every province is unique. Quebec's known in particular for its aggressive secularism. It's also known for a conscious independence, a conscious...
We are the people.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to the early days of the Confederation and Britain and France.
Right.
But we're still, we're a couple years in, and I get by with French. I grew up speaking both French and English. Miriam, her French is very basic. But we're in the western corner of the province, which the further east you go towards Quebec City, that's where you'll have the most densely populated French only. Yeah.
Okay.
So the further west you go, the more chance you'll have a near even divide of French to English. Now that's in terms of the actual population on the ground speaking. The government, if you've been following some of these developments recently, is really trying to preserve and protect the French language in the province, to the point where those, even a significant portion of communities in the province who speak English, even with them present, the government's still going to take a lot of care to preserve the French language in government, and it's the lingua franca of the province, we might say. But yeah.
So you've been there 2 years. You've only just started the job in reality. I mean.
Well, yeah. Who didn't plan for COVID, so I have to remind myself of that. Right. You can say you're a couple years in, but
16 of that has been done with COVID, so and that's changed everything, in many ways. So you're just in the job. But you have a solid wee congregation there. There are some really godly folk. We
have a wonderful flock, which hopefully every under shepherd says of theirs. But we have a precious little flock in Hudson, St. Lazare, and I do grow more attached as a shepherd there to the families, the young ones and the older ones. Each week that passes, I've shared joys and sorrows already.
Yeah.
And they're precious.
That's good.
Yeah. Well,
it's good to hear your transition from Ottawa RP Church, ruling elder, seminary, through to now pastor.
Yeah. And
we'll pick you up for our last interview in the next one.
Okay.
We'll see where we go in Hudson, St. Lazare. We get a few thoughts on the future RP Church of Canada.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.